Welcome to this week's lecture. This week it's the second part of the cinematography lecture, and this week we're going to look at shot composition, shot movement and basic lighting. This will be the basic 3-point lighting. Again, there's a number of resources and clips and video tutorials along with this video, so please make sure you go through them all. Where I really want to start is where we left off last time, and that was on the first part of these cinematography lectures. So we left when we were talking about aperture and depth of field. I really want to pick up on this, but talk about depth of field in terms of lens length. So we might look at the lens to have essentially three different lenses in one, which could be a telephoto lens, a normal lens, and a wide-angle lens. And again, these definitions are down to the different length lens sizes. So a telephoto lens might be an 85mm lens or over, a normal lens might be 50mm, and a wide-angle lens might be 35 or below. Okay, so a normal lens at around about 50mm would, this means we'd see the world as we would see it with our natural vision, with the human eye. Okay, a wide-angle lens means that there might be some distortion in the lens, but we'd see a wide angle of the shot in terms of, the perception would be more than the human eye. A telephoto lens would obviously zoom in on the shot, not zoom in terms of moving the lens length, but it would bring subjects at a distance closer to the lens. Okay, so what's this got to do with, the depth of field? Well, for a wide angle lens, it means we'll get a much larger depth of field, whereas a telephoto lens will get a shallower depth of field. Again, this depends on subject position near to the lens. So if you had a telephoto lens or a subject near to the lens, then especially in a portrait, the eye might be in focus, but the nose and the ear out of focus. Again, with a wide-angle lens, we might have much more of a wider depth of field. Again, in terms of these depths of field, with a wide-angle lens, what it'll start to do is distort the image a bit. So the wider the lens, the more the image might be distorted at the side of the lens or bend round a bit. Again, with a wide-angle lens, images and subjects near to the front of the lens will appear much bigger than they actually are. So if I is to hold my hand there, this lens isn't too bad for the size of it now, but with a wide-angle lens, it would seem my hand was in a disproportionate size to my body. Also, what the lenses will do through a different lens is start to open or close a scene. So a wide-angle lens, in terms of the depth of field, would change a scene in terms of, giving it more freedom and making it more open. So at the other end, a telephoto lens would crush the scene. So it would bring the background near to the foreground and it would bring the sides in. So if you were to use a telephoto lens inside a room, it'll start to crush the room. So it'll bring the walls in a little bit, it'll bring the background in, it'll make the subject scene seem smaller than it actually is. And the opposite end, a wide-angle lens will do exactly the opposite. So this will give depth to a shot in terms of it will make the background seem further away. It'll pull the characters out from the background more and also give much more room to the shot. So those walls we were talking about, more room will be developed inside that shot. As an example, the Sidney Lumet film 12 Angry Men, Lumet uses the different lenses and different styles all the way through the film. 12 Angry Men is a jury service film in terms of 12 men on a jury trying someone for murder. Okay, so it's best if you watch the film, but to set the scene, all the jurors go into the room, start to discuss it. It's a hot day. And then what we've got is, the lenses will start to go more telephoto, so it'll start wide as they make their initial decisions, then go to normal, then go to telephoto. And as it moves, it creates an emotional tension within the scenes through the use of the lens, as the subjects will be closer together simply through use of the lens. The room will seem smaller, it'll be more crushed, it'll pull the background nearer. So all the men will seem to be put together more. Again, there's different styles used in the film, so they heat up the room and people sweat more. And then at the end, we switch back to the wide angle lens, so the scene opens up more, which gives us room to breathe and more freedom. So this is the creative way you can use your lenses in terms of that depth of field. Again, in terms of a depth of field, also it depends on how much light there is in that subject. So we need to think about understanding and organising the depth of field in terms of what length lens we're using. Again, on most of the cameras you will have, you won't be using prime lenses. So prime lenses are fixed focus lenses where, you know, it might be a prime lens that's 25mm or 50mm or 85mm. Most of the time you'll be using zoom lenses, and these are good quality lenses, but it means that you can zoom through the range from, say, 25 to 85mm, maybe more or maybe less. But what you need to do is make sure that you know where your lens is. Don't zoom in and out for no reason. Rather than zooming in and out, think about the depth of field that you want to use in your shot. Think about the emotions in the shot, and then move the camera rather than move the lens. Okay, don't go zooming in and out, because this will change your depth of field and it might start to crush your shot or open your shot. And this might not help to drive your narrative forward. It might be telling a different story than what you want to convey. So again, in terms of this, as I was saying, you need to think about the light, how much light is on the scene. So the more light there is on the scene, the more the aperture is open, which means we'll get more of a depth of field. How wide is the shot? So the wider the shot, the more depth of field we'll get. And also, where is the lens in position to the subject? So the further away it is, obviously, we get to a certain point, which might be over, say, 20 feet, where there's an infinite depth of field. Okay, so you might have subject that's in focus maybe in 10 meters, and then 5 meters from behind that subject, everything stays in focus. So think about, these subject positions relative to your camera and to the lights and to the type of lens using and the aperture you're on. You can control all these things, but first thing you need to do is really think about the position of your camera, so your shot composition, and then think about how much light is on the subject and whether you need to change that at all. Okay, then in the next few clips we're going to talk about shot definitions in terms of how to set up your shots correctly, but also the movement of the camera and what the movement of the camera means. Okay, and so what I want you to do is watch the next clip and then follow on from this with video tutorials.